The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my Ford struggling to keep up. I'm Quentin, and at 43 I thought I had it all figured out. A comfortable life in Minneapolis, a steady job as a project manager, and a wife, Christable, who I adored. We'd been married for 15 years, a milestone I was planning to celebrate with a trip to Italy, a surprise I'd been meticulously plotting for months. Christable worked as a real estate agent, a career that suited her outgoing personality. She was always impeccably dressed, her smile warm and genuine. At least that's what I thought. Lately, though, something had felt off. She was distant, preoccupied, often working late or attending networking events. I chalked it up to the pressure of her job, the competitive market, the long hours. I wanted to be supportive, so I tried not to pry. That evening, as I walked through the front door, the house was eerily silent. Usually, Christable would be in the kitchen, humming along to the radio while she prepared dinner. Tonight, the stove was cold, the counters clean. "Christable," I called out, my voice echoing through the empty rooms. No response. I checked her usual spots, the living room, the study, even the garden. Nothing. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Christable. "Late closing, dinner with clients. Don't wait up." A wave of relief washed over me. Of course she was working. I was just being paranoid. I heated up a frozen pizza, ate it in front of the TV, and went to bed, the rain still pounding against the windows. The next morning, Christable was already gone when I woke up. A note on the kitchen counter read, "Early start. Love you." I smiled, feeling foolish for my anxieties the previous night. I was letting my imagination run wild. I needed to trust her more, but the uneasiness lingered. It was a subtle feeling, a nagging doubt that I couldn't shake. Over the next few weeks, Christable's late nights and business trips became more frequent. She was always vague about the details, offering only brief explanations and avoiding eye contact. I tried to talk to her to reconnect, but she always seemed distracted, her mind elsewhere. One Saturday, while Christable was supposedly at an open house, I decided to do some spring cleaning. I started with the attic, a dusty, forgotten space filled with old boxes and forgotten memories. As I rummaged through a box of old photographs, I stumbled upon a small, velvet-lined box. Curiosity piqued, I opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of satin, was a diamond necklace. It was exquisite, elegant, and definitely not something I had ever purchased for her. My heart began to pound in my chest. Where did this come from? Who gave it to her? The questions swirled in my mind, each one more unsettling than the last. I knew I had to confront her, but I needed proof, something concrete to back up my suspicions. That's when I remembered her laptop. She always left it on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I knew it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't help myself. I had to know the truth. As soon as I sat down, I saw her email was open. I hesitated for a moment, my hands trembling. Then I clicked on the inbox. The first email that caught my eye was from someone named Gideon. The subject line read, "Thinking of you." My blood ran cold as I opened the email. It was a love letter filled with intimate details and passionate declarations. Gideon wrote about their secret rendezvous, their stolen moments, their burning desire. He mentioned the necklace, a gift he had given her to celebrate their special connection. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The air was sucked out of my lungs and my vision blurred. I read the email again and again, each word a dagger twisting in my heart. Christable was having an affair with a man named Gideon, and she had been lying to me for months. Rage, disbelief, and a profound sense of betrayal washed over me. I wanted to scream, to break things, to lash out at anyone and everyone. But I forced myself to stay calm, to think rationally. I needed a plan. I wouldn't let her get away with this. I scrolled through her inbox, uncovering a trail of deceit and betrayal. There were emails, text messages, even photographs. Gideon was a colleague of hers, a successful real estate developer. They had been seeing each other for almost a year, meeting in secret, whispering sweet nothings behind my back. I printed out all the evidence, every email, every text, every photograph. I wanted to have everything documented in black and white. Then I closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and waited for Christable to come home. She arrived around 7 p.m., her usual smile plastered on her face. "Hey, honey," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "How was your day?" I stared at her, my eyes burning with anger. "Don't you honey me," I said, my voice cold and hard. "We need to talk." She looked at me, confused. "What's wrong?" I didn't say a word. I simply handed her the stack of printed emails and photographs. Her eyes widened as she recognized Gideon's name and face. Her smile vanished, replaced by a look of panic and fear. "What is this?" she stammered, her voice trembling. "You know exactly what this is," I said, my voice rising. "It's proof of your affair, proof of your betrayal, proof that everything I thought we had was a lie." She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. "Quentin, I can explain," she pleaded. "Explain what?" I shouted. "Explain how you could do this to me. Explain how you could lie to my face for so long. Explain how you could betray our marriage, our vows, our love." She sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry," she cried. "I didn't mean for this to happen. It just happened. It just happened," I repeated, incredulous. "You mean you didn't consciously make a decision to cheat on me? You didn't actively pursue this affair? It just magically appeared out of thin air?" She didn't answer, her head buried in her hands. I stood there staring at her, my heart breaking into a million pieces. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had shattered my world with her infidelity. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I want you out of this house. I can't bear to look at you anymore." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with despair. "Quentin, please," she begged. "Don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll cut off all contact with Gideon. Just please give me another chance." I shook my head, my resolve firm. "It's too late, Christabel," I said. "You've broken my trust, and I don't think I can ever forgive you." She left that night, taking only a few belongings. As I watched her drive away, I felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness, anger, relief, and a profound sense of loss. My marriage was over. My life had been irrevocably changed. The next few months were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and emotional turmoil. The divorce was messy, bitter, and expensive. Christabel fought me every step of the way, trying to get as much as she could. She even tried to blame me for the affair, claiming I was distant and unsupportive. But I had the evidence, the emails, the photographs. The judge ruled in my favor, granting me a generous settlement and full ownership of the house. Christabel was left with nothing but her guilt and her shame. After the divorce was finalized, I decided to sell the house. It held too many painful memories, too many reminders of Christabel's betrayal. I needed a fresh start, a new beginning. I bought a small cabin in northern Minnesota, a secluded retreat surrounded by forests and lakes. I wanted to get away from the city, away from the noise and the chaos, away from everything that reminded me of Christabel. I spent my days hiking, fishing, and reading. I learned to cook, to garden, to appreciate the simple things in life. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain was still there, a dull ache in my heart, but it was no longer all-consuming. One evening, as I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset, I received a phone call. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hesitantly, I answered it. "Hello," I said. "Quentin, it's Gideon," the voice on the other end said. "I know this is probably the last thing you want to hear, but I need to talk to you." My blood ran cold. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. "I know I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry," he said. "But I have something you need to know about Christabel." I hesitated for a moment, then agreed to meet him. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop in a nearby town the following day. The next morning, I drove to the coffee shop, my heart pounding in my chest. I saw Gideon sitting at a table, looking pale and nervous. I sat down across from him, my eyes fixed on his face. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cold and hard. "Christabel is in trouble," he said. "She's been involved in some shady real estate deals, and she's being investigated by the authorities." I stared at him, incredulous. "What are you talking about?" He explained that Christabel had been using her position as a real estate agent to defraud clients, skimming money from escrow accounts and forging documents. Gideon had been involved in some of the deals, but he had recently decided to cooperate with the authorities in exchange for immunity. "I know this doesn't excuse what I did, but I wanted you to know the truth," he said. "Christabel is not the person you thought she was. She's greedy, manipulative, and ruthless." I sat there, stunned. I couldn't believe that Christabel, the woman I had loved, was capable of such deceit and corruption. It was like a final piece of the puzzle had fallen into place, revealing the true extent of her betrayal. I thanked Gideon for the information and left the coffee shop, my mind racing. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let Christabel get away with her crimes. I contacted the authorities and provided them with all the information I had, including the emails and photographs I had found on her laptop. They launched an investigation, and within a few weeks, Christabel was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement. She was convicted and sentenced to several years in prison. As I sat in the courtroom, listening to the judge pronounce her sentence, I felt a sense of closure. Justice had been served. Christabel had finally paid the price for her betrayal. I returned to my cabin in northern Minnesota, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. The pain was still there, but it was no longer crippling. I had survived Christabel's betrayal, and I had emerged stronger and wiser. I knew that I would never fully forget what had happened, but I was determined to move on with my life, to find happiness again. I had learned a valuable lesson about trust, forgiveness, and the importance of knowing who you truly are. And I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold.